You know what's fascinating about human nature? We tend to think spiritual giants like Abraham must have had it all figured out. But here's a man chosen by God to father nations who keeps falling into the same old patterns of fear and deception.
That's such an interesting observation about patterns of behavior. What do you think it says about spiritual growth that someone like Abraham would repeat the same mistake twice with the whole she's my sister scenario?
Well, it really challenges our assumptions about spiritual maturity, doesn't it? Here's Abraham, who had this incredible personal relationship with God, who'd seen divine intervention multiple times, and yet when fear kicks in, boom, he defaults right back to his old survival tactics.
The timing of it all makes it even more remarkable. This happens right before the birth of Isaac, the miracle child they'd waited 25 years for.
And what's really striking is how this pagan king, Abimelech, ends up being the moral compass in the story. He gets this divine warning in a dream and immediately does the right thing, while Abraham, God's chosen prophet, is trying to justify his deception.
Hmm. You know what's fascinating about that? It shows how God sometimes uses unlikely people to correct even his most devoted followers.
Exactly. And here's what's particularly revealing. Abraham's justification was basically, I assumed you weren't godly people, so I decided to lie first. The psychology behind that defensive thinking is so relevant to how we often justify our own questionable choices.
That's such a powerful insight about how our assumptions about others can lead us into ethical compromises.
And then we get to this incredible moment when Isaac is finally born. The name Isaac means laughter. There's something beautiful about how God transforms their skeptical laughter into joyful laughter. It's like a divine comedy playing out.
Well, speaking of transformations, let's talk about how this birth creates this intense family drama with Ishmael and Hagar.
Oh man, this is where it gets really complex. You've got Abraham having to send away his other son and Hagar. Talk about a heart wrenching scene. But what's fascinating is how God shows up in that situation, too.
The way God handles that situation reveals so much about his character, doesn't it? He doesn't just focus on the promised line through Isaac.
Right. And this is where we see one of the most beautiful demonstrations of God's personal care. When Hagar's at her lowest point, thinking she's about to watch her son die in the desert, God shows up and calls her by name. It's like this incredibly intimate moment in the midst of what feels like total abandonment.
That personal touch really stands out. God meeting people exactly where they are, even in their darkest moments.
And you know what's really powerful about the ending? After all this drama, we see Abraham finally learning to trust God's protection instead of his own schemes. He makes peace with Abimelech, plants this tree. It's like he's finally putting down roots in his faith.
So, what you're saying is that spiritual growth isn't about achieving perfection, but about learning from our failures?
Exactly. And here's the thing that makes this story so relevant today. We're all on the same journey. Whether it's dealing with family drama, facing our fears, or learning to trust God, these ancient stories mirror our modern struggles in so many ways.
Well, that really brings it home for anyone dealing with complicated family situations or trying to navigate relationships while staying faithful to their beliefs.
And that's really the heart of it. Whether we're talking about Abraham in ancient Mesopotamia or someone living in today's world, God is always working out his purposes, even when we can't see it. He's patient with our growth, faithful despite our failures, and committed to completing what he started in each of us.